going on, party people? We're back with another video, another low quality hot take kind of video. You know, these are like my favorite ones to put together. But a few weeks ago I went over what I think were the best Pokemon games and also kind of my favorite Pokemon games. And today I'm going to be going over the worst. And I do apologize if your absolute favorite Pokemon game shows up in this video. But I mean, I don't know. I got some stuff I want to let out. I got some frustrations from over the years, mainly in one generation of Pokemon that I need to let out, you know? And I think it's fun to talk about, so yeah, that's what we're going to be getting into today. Yeah, no, let's get into it. All right, I'm back on the good old Wikipedia graph from last time. So I'm not going to call this section honorable mentions. I'm going to call this section games that they're not even going to be qualified for this list, let's say. So, and I'm just going to kind of go in order of generation and just sort of say how I feel. So, first of all, Generation 1, and I'm kind of throwing Generation 2 in there as well. I'm not going to get into those games. One, because I love them. I think they're some of my absolute favorite. Again, go check out that video if you haven't already on what my favorite Pokemon games are. But also, it was like such a different time when these games came out. Like, Red and Green and Blue all came out 1996 and the Yellow 1998. Like, sure, by today's standards of video games, these games might seem as interpreted as bad Pokemon games or as bad games in general, but at the time these games were excellent. These were some of the best games on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. Trust me, I was there. I was young, but I was there, and I can safely say these games were very, very good for a handheld device at the time. So I'm not even going to throw them in contention here. I don't think that's really fair. Now, obviously, I'm going to be skipping Generation 3, 4, and 5. Let me know in the comments which of these three are the best. They're all fantastic. There's no way any of these games, I think, can even be in this discussion, including Diamond and Pearl, which I think is like probably the weak link of all of these games. But at the same time, like, it's not really too different from Platinum, honestly. Platinum's just a direct enhanced version of Diamond and Pearl. But Diamond and Pearl are still pretty good games, in my opinion. They had their flaws, but still pretty good. I don't think they belong in this conversation. Neither do Gen 6. I mean, I think Gen 6 was overall a step in the wrong direction, but these were still pretty good games, and I did mention that in the last video as well. Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, I'm not gonna lie, I had a pretty good time with these games. I wouldn't put these in my favorite because I don't think they stack up to, like, let's say Emerald, for example, but I still had a pretty gosh darn good time with these games. They introduced some really cool Mega Evolutions as well. Flying around on Mega Latios was kind of fire. I don't know, there were some cool things about these games that I don't think they're going to be in contention for worst games at all. Kind of the same thing with Sun and Moon, and again, I mentioned in the last video, I never played Ultra Sun and Moon, so they're not going to be in contention for this as well. Yeah, but I've heard they're pretty good games, and they're on my list to play. I've heard they are better than Sun and Moon, and I thought Sun and Moon was alright, actually. I didn't mind Sun and Moon at all. So that leaves that leaves this section here. So a couple games I'm also not going to be talking about. I'm not going to talk about Legend ZA, the most recent Pokemon game, because I haven't played it, and honestly, it looks okay. I mean, I'm only going to be going over the top 3 worst games, in my opinion. I think 3 was a good number for this. And I don't know where this would have fallen if I did play it, but I have a feeling it probably wouldn't be in the top 3 worst games, in my opinion. Same with Legends Arceus. I liked Legends Arceus. I never beat it, but I can really see what people like in it. Some of the regional variants that were introduced in that generation, or in that game rather, were pretty fire, I'm not going to lie. It's not my type of Pokemon game. And I probably wouldn't like Legend ZA as a result of that too, but I really do see why people like these games, and I think they're well-made games. The music's great. It's one of the best-looking Pokemon games, I would say, overall. It's just not my style of game. I like the battle mechanics, and I don't really like the battle mechanics in that game personally, but running around, catching Pokemon, as an action game, it was pretty sweet. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that only leaves this small section. So let's get into my honorable mention for this list. All right, honorable mention is going to Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, it didn't quite make the top 3 worst, because honestly, I had a pretty good time playing these games. And I didn't play the extension, expansion, I should say, that's actually featured on the screen right now. That's just the best, I don't know, trailer I thought I'd find. But Scarlet and Violet, I had a pretty good time playing with those games. Like, I wasn't as frustrated about the graphical limitations as a lot of people did. I'm not one of those people that really cares how my game runs, but I do have to acknowledge that, yeah, there was some pretty severe bugginess in those games. There were some pretty cool Pokemon that got introduced in that generation. I am a fan of the Paradox Pokemon, mainly the past ones. That's what kind of led me to gravitate towards Scarlet version rather than Violet version. But some of those future ones are pretty sweet, but I like the past Paradox Pokemon quite a bit. That was the big selling point for me, and they introduced some cool Pokemon in this generation too. Like Baxcalibur is just one that comes to mind. Some of the legendaries were pretty cool. I think the box legendaries were pretty sweet. A little bit more of my type of Pokemon game. I don't like 3D though. I don't like. I don't want to play a Zelda game really when I'm playing Pokemon. So in my opinion, it loses some points there. But yeah, honestly, it wasn't really a bad game. I don't know if I finished it. I beat the Elite Four, but I don't think I got to the end of the story of it. So I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of a flaw. That's why this is a honorable mention rather than actually making the list. But honestly, I think they were okay games. Had its flaws for sure. Not quite the step in the right direction I think we all wanted, but I do think it was an improvement from Generation 8. So yeah, dishonorable mention to Scarlet and Violet. All right, number 3 on my list of the worst Pokemon games. I'm going with Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, some people might have this as number 1 on their worst. Some people might have enjoyed this game. I did put some time into this game when it was recent. I haven't even thought about playing these games again, to be real. I remember playing this on a plane quite a bit. I think I went on a long plane ride. I can't remember where, but I remember. Whenever I think of this game, I think about trying to shiny hunt Slowpoke. I feel like in terms of battle mechanics, this game took a big step back. Weren't there no abilities, I think, or something like that? I mean, I can't remember if Megas were in this or not. It was a Gen 7 game technically, but it was the first one on the Switch. And I feel like it was overall a pretty poor introduction to the Switch. It was just way too stripped back. I know the point of this game was to kind of appeal to a more broader audience, which maybe they did. I don't know how the sales really went for this game, or if that was a success, but yeah, now encountering Pokemon in the wild was pretty neat. Like, this is kind of a new thing where the sprites are just running around. I did like shiny hunting in this game. I thought running into shinies randomly was pretty cool in the overworld. That was one thing I liked about this game. And it's always a good time going through and experiencing Kanto again, but does this stack up to something like Fire Red, Leaf Green the last time we experienced Kanto? No, not at all. Fire Red, Leaf Green were way better games than this one. This one just really lacked depth, you know, and I feel like the extra stuff going beyond the main story, like, I forget what the challenges were, where like you just catch the same Pokemon a million times. It's like, is that an enjoyable experience, really? Because I don't think it is. Personally, I think it's just like the Pokemon equivalent of just doom scrolling on TikTok. It's just like doing the same thing over and over again. Does that actually make it enjoyable? I don't know. But, you know, I had some, okay, I guess Megas were in this game. I had some enjoyable time playing this game. That's probably why it's only as low as 3. But still, it was a pretty bad Pokemon game. Pretty bad introduction to the Switch, I think. And yeah, that's why I got it at number 3. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch, number 2 is Pokemon Sword and Shield. Yeah, this is the first main title on the Nintendo Switch. This is the first game of Generation 8. This is gonna be awesome. And I thought it was a letdown. I really do. I know I'm not alone in that. What are some pros? I mean, there were some cool Pokemon introduced in this game, sure. The starters have grown on me, I would say. The wild area was pretty cool, and I know it had its graphical limitations, but that was about it. I mean, the main part of the game, traveling between towns, sucked. Like, the routes have like no depth. The towns had like no depth too. Like, isn't there that one town where it looks like there's a bunch of stuff going on in the background, but you can't actually go to the stuff in the background? Pretty insane, actually. yeah, really not too much memorable. I remember there's all this talk of like, doesn't the champion, like for lore reasons, doesn't the champion have all this like credit as like this great trainer? And he wasn't even that difficult. These games weren't tough at all. I did have some good times like shiny hunting in these games. I know the encounter rate for shinies is, or I know it's like the rate of getting a shiny is a little bit higher, but still, yeah. There were some okay Pokemon here, like Dragapult and you know, Duraludon, is that how you say? I can't remember. That Pokemon is just on the screen. I'm just looking at the video right now, but and then Sturfetch'd, of course. Like there's some okay Pokemon, you know, but the game as a whole really let you down. There was just no depth between towns. There wasn't much to do after the main story either. And like, I don't know. I mean, you look at some of the remake games like Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. Like they kind of run on the same engine as the main game of that generation, and it feels like none of the games that came after this one really wanted anything to do with this. So you think about it, I mean, Legends Arceus was a totally different game. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl was a totally different game too. I think it was even 2D. The games that came after didn't want anything to do with this at all, which I think is a little bit funny. It's like Game Freak knew this game didn't run well. It wasn't a really good game at all. Terrestrialization, what's it called? Gigantamax was a pretty bad gimmick. Like I still didn't even know how that really works in terms of like damage output and all of that. Like I don't know, that mechanic confused me, and it was just kind of lame, in my opinion. This whole game was kind of lame, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan. I did put quite a bit of time into it, at least. Again, the wild area wasn't bad, but like that was it. That was basically it. Like the DLC was okay, but didn't have much replayability. I don't know. Number 3 feels right. I mean, you can go ahead and put Let's Go ahead of this if you want. I just feel like I kind of enjoyed that game a little bit more. Personally, I don't know. I think that might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think there's a pretty strong case for the game that I got at number 1 here. All right, and number 1, I got Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl. I hate this game. I do. It was the biggest letdown in so many ways. I mean, honestly, it has all of the bad stuff from Diamond and Pearl that they just like, not bad stuff, but like stuff they should have fixed. Like the part that you can just like kind of go out of bounds. Like it's insane that you can still go out of bounds and do the same glitches that you could do back in Diamond and Pearl, where you can get like Arceus and Shaman. Maybe not Arceus in these games, but you can get like Shaman and Darkrai early. Like that's insane that bug still exists in these. These games look stupid, first of all. The chibi sprites are just so dumb, I think. It's just a terrible art decision. I'm not saying this Pokemon game should have been like full on like Black and White 2 edginess, but like who is this game for? Like for 4-year-olds? Like this is the dumbest looking Pokemon game by far. I mean, just look on the screen. It's the dumbest looking game ever. And it's just like literally just copied Diamond and Pearl's homework. That's basically it. Not much more to say than that. It didn't really add much at all. Were there any new like actual Pokemon in this game? Did they expand the dex at all? And I know they are like trying to make pretty faithful remakes, but they made this thing like way too faithful. Like you look at Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. They all added like cool stuff. You know, honestly, all 3 of those games, they all added really cool stuff that made those games unique. There's nothing about that in this game. It's literally all the same stuff, and that's it. And it sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather play the originals, which shouldn't be happening. I'm almost like embarrassed to play this game when I played it, because it was like, I hope no one is watching me play this like piece of trash. It wasn't a good game. That's just it. And I think it's the worst. I mean, again, yeah, I think any of the games I talked about in the top 3, top 4, I don't know, honorable mention. I mean, you know, but I don't know. I think there's a pretty strong case that this game was just a massive letdown. I think that's kind of what brings it back. Like, maybe objectively it's not a terrible game, but it's a humongous letdown. You know, like, aren't we supposed to be moving forward on things like the Nintendo Switch from the DS? Like, it's crazy. I don't know. Just in my opinion, this is the worst Pokemon game. Let me know in the comments what you think is the worst. Sorry if I offended you, but I don't know. That's just my list, and yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.